You've been told your whole life to look in the mirror, but often all we do is look at the exterior. You've been told to balance your emotions, your thoughts. You've been told to take a beat, live in the present. All of that is true, but it's not the full picture. As we discussed in the video, the two minds that create a polymath, there's the outer mind, what you show to the world, and the inner mind, that which thinks, contemplates, forms beliefs, the creative soul. The mind in motion stays in motion. You can step out your front door, but are you feeding your inner polymath? Because stepping out the door isn't the same as feeding it. You can walk 1,000 steps and never leave the inside of your own head, half present, running the same loop of worries and to-do lists. Motion isn't the same as attention. The mind in motion stays in motion, but only if you give it something worth moving toward. In the first video, I gave you the 3 pillars: awe, logic, and compassion. I want to sit with each of those a little longer because naming a thing isn't the same as feeding it. And then I want to take you beneath them to the 6 foundations they stand on, because a pillar has to rest on something. You can't raise a structure on bare ground. Start with the first pillar, awe. I said it's the feeling of wonder you get when you encounter something so vast it challenges your understanding of the world. But notice what that definition asks of you. It asks you to be challenged, to let something be bigger than you. That's harder than it sounds because the outer self hates being small. It wants to master, to categorize, to file the experience away and move on to the next thing. I'm in Berat right now, the city of 1,000 windows. Every one of these streets is older than the country I came from. Illyrians walked here, Byzantines, Ottomans, layer upon layer of people who believed and argued and vanished, leaving stone behind. I could walk past all of it as a tourist, collecting photographs the way the outer self collects trophies. Or I could let it level me. Awe isn't rare. The starry sky I talked about last time is over your head every single night. It was never a question of whether wonder is available to you. It's whether you'll hold still long enough to be humbled by it. The second pillar, logic. I said imagination without structure is just daydreaming. That logic is the rudder, the framework that turns a spark into something real. Let me press on that. The reason the great polymaths could move between fields wasn't that they dabbled. It's that they built real scaffolding under every interest. Leonardo didn't just feel that the human body was miraculous. He dissected it. Awe told him the body was worth looking at. Logic made him earn the right to depict it. The wonder and the rigor weren't in tension. They were partners. One without the other is either a daydream or a spreadsheet. Feeding your inner world with logic means not just consuming information, but engaging with it. Questioning your own assumptions. Going to the source. Letting the material push back on you. It means being willing to be wrong and to correct yourself in public. The inner polymath isn't fed by collecting facts like a magpie. It's fed by wrestling with them until they yield something you didn't have before. I question my assumptions all the time. That's one of the purposes of this channel. If you're looking for a more concrete example, watch my video. Am I proud to be an American? I won't say that questioning is easy, but it's worth the effort. And the third pillar, the one most people skip, compassion. We treat it like the soft part, the garnish on the plate. It's not, it's the whole reason any of this matters. You can gather all the awe and all the logic in the world and still end up a brilliant, lonely machine. a mind that can build a bridge but never asks who has to cross it. I said last time that a compassionate engineer doesn't just build a bridge, they build one that serves the community. That's the outward face, and it's the face we're comfortable with. But there's an inward face, and it's the one I keep coming back to. Compassion has to be turned on yourself first. The harsh inner critic, the voice that says you're behind, you're not enough, you should have figured this out already. That voice is the enemy of the inner polymath. Because you cannot be curious and terrified at the same time. Curiosity requires safety. It requires the grace to look foolish, to ask the naive question, to open a book on a subject you know nothing about and be perfectly at peace with understanding almost none of it. Fear makes you cling to what you already know. And the person who only clings to what they already know has stopped growing. They've become the monopath, the expert with the one-track mind we warned about in the first video. Turn the critic into a coach, and then take the grace you've given yourself and turn it back outward so that everything you make serves someone beyond you. So those are the 3 pillars. But like I said, a pillar has to rest on something. And in that first video, I never showed you the ground. So let's go beneath them now to the 6 foundations that hold the whole thing up. Because if the foundation is cracked, it doesn't matter how beautiful the pillars are. The whole structure comes down. The first foundation is solitude, not loneliness. Solitude. The empty afternoon, the unscheduled hour, the stretch of time with nothing stimulating you. The modern world has all but abolished this. We fill every gap the instant it appears. A screen, a feed, a notification. We've become terrified of boredom. But boredom is not the enemy. Unscheduled time, the time to think, is the fallow field. Your best ideas do not arrive while you're scrolling. They arrive on the walk, in the shower, in the quiet right before sleep, exactly the moments we now rush to fill. Solitude is the ground the whole structure stands on. The second foundation is attention. Solitude is useless without it. This is the faculty the modern economy is engineered to destroy. Deliberately, profitably, at scale. Your focus has been chopped into fragments and sold. And the cost is enormous, because you cannot be humbled by what you never truly looked at, and you cannot connect ideas you only half absorbed. Attention isn't passive. It's a discipline, a muscle, and in most of us, it has atrophied. The ability to hold one thing in your mind deeply for a long time without flinching toward your phone, that may be the single rarest and most valuable capacity a person can have now. The third foundation is play. We think of the inner life as serious. Rigor, discipline, foundations. But so much of what the polymath does is just messing around with no goal. Following a tangent because it delights you. Making something bad on purpose. Asking what if, with no intention of being useful. Play is where associative thinking actually happens. Where music collides with mathematics, where philosophy bleeds into technology. You cannot force those connections. You can only play until they appear. The outer self, obsessed with output, has forgotten how. The inner self never did. The fourth foundation is doubt. Not the corrosive kind, the generous kind, the willingness to sit in the discomfort of not knowing. The outer self demands certainty and demands it now. It wants the question closed so it can move to the next task. But the inner polymath can hold a question open, unresolved, sometimes for years. It can hold two contradictory ideas at once without collapsing into one. Keats called this negative capability, the capacity to remain in uncertainty without irritably reaching for the answer. The fifth foundation is memory. In the first video, I praised associative thinking, connecting the dots across disciplines. But connection requires having something to connect. You cannot combine what you never internalized. There's a world of difference between having access to information and actually carrying it inside you. A person who has memorized 100 poems has a different inner life than one who can merely look them up. The well has to be stocked. The polymath carries a vast, furnished interior, things read and seen and held long enough to collide when you least expect it. In an age that outsources memory to the machine in your pocket, choosing to actually remember is almost an act of rebellion. The sixth foundation is patience. Everything else runs on the daily clock, but the inner life also runs on a much slower one. Some ideas take years to ripen. Some interests you'll return to across decades. There's a kind of compounding that happens only when you let a question live in you unresolved instead of rushing to close the book. The outer self wants the answer today. The inner self is content to plant something it may never see bloom. Depth is not a sprint. It's the patient accumulation of a lifetime spent paying attention to the same few things you can't stop loving. So let me give you the practice, because none of this means anything if it stays a lecture. 4 small exercises, not a program, not a checklist, just doors. 1 for solitude and attention. Once a day, take a walk with no phone, no music, no podcast, nothing but your own mind and the world in front of you. 15 minutes. Let yourself be bored. That boredom is the field going fallow, and something will grow in it. 2 for awe. Find one thing each day and refuse to move past it. A phrase, the way light falls on a wall, a face. Don't photograph it, because the photograph replaces the memory, and act of recalling a thing changes how you remember it. It takes you out of the moment. Don't post it. That's the work of the outer polymath, after all. Revel in the moment and smile. This is your moment and yours alone. Appreciate it and be glad and grateful. Just stand there and let it be larger than you for 60 seconds. You'll feel the outer self fighting to get back to being busy. Every time you win that fight, you fed the inner one. 3 for logic and doubt. Take a belief you're certain of and spend 20 minutes building the strongest possible case against it. The real case, the one a decent, intelligent person who disagrees would actually make. If you can't, you don't understand your own position. You've only inherited it. The inner polymath earns its beliefs. It doesn't rent them. 4 for compassion. The next time you catch the inner critic mid-sentence, "You idiot, you're so far behind, why did you even try?" Stop and ask one question. Would I say this to a friend who was just beginning? You wouldn't. So say what you'd say to them instead. Then carry that grace back out into the world. That's the whole thing. 6 foundations and 3 pillars. Solitude and attention are the ground. Play, doubt, memory, and patience hold up the rest. And on top of them stand awe, which opens you, logic, which grounds you, and compassion, which points the whole apparatus toward the only question that finally matters. Not what can I make, but who is it for? Here's what I'll leave you with. In the first video, I told you the Renaissance isn't over, that it's waiting inside anyone who chooses curiosity, courage, and conscience. I meant it. But a Renaissance doesn't announce itself with trumpets. It begins quietly, in the private decision of one person to stop feeding only the self the world can see, and to start tending the self no one applauds. The self that takes the walk with no phone. The self that stands still for 60 seconds. The self that argues with its own certainties, that carries a furnished interior, that waits years for an idea to bloom, that speaks to its own failures the way it would speak to a frightened friend. If you need any help on these topics, you might want to also check out my videos on meditation and transcendence, which fit into these topics perfectly. The point is, be a friend to yourself first. Be your best companion and feed the mind. When one accepts their own love, they know they're never alone. And isn't that how individuals become societies and nations? A mind in motion stays in motion. Be your propeller, and don't let the world judge you for a little me time. Nobody is going to reward you for this. There's no certificate, no line on a resume, no applause. The inner polymath does its work in the dark, out of sight, the way roots do. But everything you'll ever build that's worth building grows out of that soil. Feed it, water it, live it. And one day, you'll look at what came out of you. An idea, a work, a way of seeing that connects things no one told you were connected, and you'll understand that it was never the striving that made you whole. It was the tending. When you're ready, take the quiz to see if you're a Renaissance spirit. And until next time, thank you for walking with me. I wish you peace. Now make room for it. In your heart, in your mind, in your soul. Not as an end, but as a beginning. Peace is the quiet the seed needs. The tending is still yours to do. So feed the inner polymath. Take that peace into yourself and let it be a beacon to a world hungry for it. Shine on, fellow traveler. Shine on.